Architecture is so much about feeling the space.
But earlier in the days when you work with old school people like R. Balki, A.R. Murugadoss or Bansali sir, so what we do is they really have an understanding of space and they give that creative liberty for a professional to sort of execute whatever they want.
So when you design, you have to feel that space, and if you can create that feeling for anybody, it could be an interior space, it could be a bungalow, it could be a building, but for the people who are going to stay there, the residents, if you can create that feeling, I think you've done your job.
So for me, inspiration is in pockets.
Yeah.
Like from one person this, from the other person that. I mean, everyone's doing something which is really outstanding, to be honest.
The DesignFM, supported by BirlaNu Parador and Asahi India Glass Limited, curated by Eztablish, in association with FOAID.
Hi everyone, welcome to the DesignFM. I am Fatima Sakarwala. I'm your host today, and we have with us Rupin Suchak and Rajan Goregaonkar. Now, one designs structures that are built to last for a very long time, and another designs sets that are first only lived in imagination and then come to real life within like 3 days. And but they're both doing phenomenal work. Now we know that Rajan is an architect and a phenomenal designer, and Rupin is an amazing set designer and an interior designer. But I want to know a little bit more about you guys apart from what you do in your professional setting. So Rajan, would you like to go first?
Well, but I think for me as an architect, I think the entire process of architecture is about observing human psychology. And I take that opportunity every time I go to any place, any situation, and understand how humans interact with any kind of space. And I like to put that into practice. So when I design buildings or when I design interiors, it's all about understanding human psychology.
Amazing. Rupin, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
I mainly sort of practice production design for films, bringing life to the films that we see, especially Bollywood. And life happened in a way where an interior design fractal opened up for us because you were working with actors and stuff. So these guys commissioned us to do their homes, and another avenue in life started. And
how has that transition been for you from set designing to interior designing?
It's pretty much the same. In fact, I don't really, we were just having a conversation outside, and I do not really get excited by something more over the other. But a few days into an interior design project, I feel I should be doing production design, whereas a few days into production design, I feel that I should be doing the other. Because I really don't like to be with one thing for a very long time. So maybe that's the way we are trained in the number of years that we've worked. And I guess that's the reason why I would like to sort of explore more and more work with respect to design needs to come out. So be it a school kids project or a film or designing a bag or designing a ukulele case for my wife, anything.
That's quite cool. So you were also telling us about how you have transitioned from set designing to interiors, and you were telling us about certain challenges, but tell me, how has set designing helped you in the interior designing world?
Well, it's of course an added advantage for us, because in sets, when we are creating sets, we don't really restrict ourselves to imagination. We just think of everything that comes by. And that has sort of translated into spaces for me where, because we start on a note which is really abstract and really there, upbeat, which may not be the most ideal way, but that's the ideal way for me. And that's how unconventionally I sort of get on with a space.
All right. Rajan, what about you? When you are doing these high-rise buildings, what is the process that you follow?
Like for the layman, it's just like a 150-meter tall building which has come up, but there is a huge science behind high rise, and it is. I've seen the process, over the past 25-30 years, how Mumbai has changed from 8-storied buildings to 10-storied buildings to now 150 meters, and the science is phenomenal. I mean, right from the ground level, how the building starts, understanding who the building is going to be made for, what the developer wants, and when you are doing high rise, especially, you are looking at buildings which are facing a lot of wind pressure. So the planning of the building, the design of the building is going to cater to a lot of factors which normally is in a low story building is not taken into account. So there is this huge science behind it, and along with that, of course, there are many things. I don't want to bore you, but there will be like right from services to the waiting time for a lift in a building, to the structural stability of the building, efficient planning. So there are a huge number of things which go in a high rise. So I think overall, like it is it's kind of changing Mumbai the way it is happening. It's very exciting. So everybody wants to go high rise.
Correct. But also tell me, we've seen this in the last few decades where a lot of people are also sort of complaining about so many high rises now coming into Bombay, that it is kind of taking away the soul of the city, or the character of the city is changing. And many of us are not very excited about it. But I remember you were telling me that there is a flip side to this entire narrative, and I think we would like to hear more on that.
See, I also stay in a house which is built in 1934. Okay, I stay in Gamdevi, and I have seen my area change. Where at one time there were these low-rise chawls, and I could see Malvar from my window, which I can't see anymore. So, like, I understand what you are saying. I understand that. I mean, things have changed. Meaning, it's my building, my terrace is like, first I could see everything from my terrace. Now everybody can see onto my terrace. So that's what's happened. But I just want to say one thing. You are staying in Mumbai. Okay, Mumbai is a business hub. Everybody from India wants to come to Mumbai. They aspire to stay in Mumbai, make their livelihood. I don't want to be selfish and say, that you don't make a skyscraper here because my view is going to be restricted. So I understand that it bothers me, but on the other hand, I think that you can't change the fact that or you can't argue with the fact that Mumbai is going to be a business hub, and everybody wants to come out here to make their livelihood, and you have to make things as easy as you can for them, for the people. So along with all those things which happen, you have to make sure that the infrastructure can cope up with this kind of development. You got to make sure that whatever you construct is aesthetically pleasing. I mean, you see all the big cities in the world. You have high rises all over the world in the major cities. Make sure that the buildings are aesthetically good looking. Because good looking buildings, make a city beautiful. So let's be conscious about design. Not just construct a high rise.
You think architects are focusing on the aesthetic part of it, because the more we see our similar looking buildings, similar looking towers throughout the city, especially the newer ones that are coming are replicas of each other. You think there is more thought being put into what kind of design should be out there?
The popular thought process is that this project has been made by this developer, but nobody looks at the fact that the buildings designed for this developer is by a certain architect. So let's have some kind of I would prefer that there was more of a platform where architects are recognized for their work.
Correct.
Like you have ads in newspapers all the time, this project, that project. But do you see the name of the architect? You don't. So the architect does not get that kind of exposure, and then nobody knows whether an architect is responsible for making a great building or whether he is responsible for making a bad building.
I
so
think
talk
there needs
about
to
it.
be more accountability.
I mean, you are responsible for making a structure which is going to stand for the next 70 years in the city. You have a huge responsibility. So you make sure that the building looks good.
Absolutely.
And don't just blame it on the developer, because the architect is ultimately the guy who the buck stops there as far as design goes.
I think that's a great answer. I think we absolutely need to know more about who is designing what in our city. Because I think the first narrative is always to complain, but information is not something that we have readily available. Which brings me to my next question to the both of you. We are now that we are seeing so much construction happening in the city, I think the common man is not aware as to what is okay and what is not okay. We see the constructions happening have no noise control, no dust control, no pollution control. What are some things that the common man should be aware of and probably reach out to the local authorities or ask around and get more information on, especially in residential areas where there are children and older people who are getting extremely affected by this constant noise. You know, we are going about our life कि okay, ये normal है, अब ऐसे ही जीना है. But I'm sure that is not okay. We have certain rights and we need to be more aware of what those are. So, Rupin, if you would like to shed more light.
I don't think we can do much about it, honestly speaking.
You just confirmed my doubt.
Yeah, I have lost the battle here already. And there have been several times where I have engaged myself with the cops to complain about a building that's coming up.
Yeah.
It started right from the lockdown, where the builders just went rampant just at it, you know.
Yeah.
And several times I have taken up the opportunity to sort of call them up and do this. But I guess the system in its spine has loopholes, which are not something, which are not pleasing for a common man, and it will not end up, sort of favoring the common man, to be honest, no matter how much we do. No matter where you go, what you do, it just doesn't help. If he's an architect, if he's doing something, he takes care of it.
Correct.
That's the root level. Who takes charge and says that, boss, these are the rules that I want to play by. Then these are the people that can actually make a difference.
Does that happen, Rajan?
So, in this case, I'll tell you something about the noise, because I myself was exposed to it for maybe 1.5 months in Goregaon, where there was I was staying in my in-laws' house and there was this construction going on. Now, firstly, the noise, the maximum noise is during the foundation of a building.
Correct.
And most of the properties or most of the land in India, in Mumbai, you need to do pile footing. Pile footing is like, you have to take the foundation right down to the rock below. And you don't get rock very easily in some projects. Right. So there is a lot of banging with that machine.
Correct.
So there is a machine which, kind of pounds the earth.
Correct.
Okay. So now that is the main sound which happens during construction. And that goes on for, it depends upon the size of the project, but could go on from 1.5 months to 2 months till all the piles are done.
Yeah.
Now that is the thing which is which really can impact the surrounding neighborhood as far as noise is concerned. And I personally know some developers who talk to the buildings around and say that if you all are disturbed in the afternoon, we'll stop this work for so and so time.
All right.
Okay. But regardless, it is disturbing only. Like in the morning, you will get up, you will see, you will hear the noise. But I know people who have done it.
You can start from like 7:30, 8 o'clock and it can go on till like 10 o'clock.
So some might not stop, some might do it. Okay. So that is, especially if you are doing construction in a space which is completely surrounded by, other buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
and neck to neck anyway already.
But there are other things which are happening. It's like, now the municipal authorities have said that any building under construction, you must have noticed a green cloth around the building. That is because they don't want the dust during construction to go around, to go inside the other buildings. So measures like this, then misting is happening where, they take water and spray it to absorb the dust.
Contained. Correct.
Then there is they make sure that there is a board outside. If you have noticed, most construction sites have a board which states the pollution level.
All right.
Which is generated because of that construction. And that reading goes straight away, it's connected to the municipal authorities.
All right.
So if they feel that your construction is causing pollution, they will come there, to ask you why this is happening.
Yeah.
So there is a conscious effort, they insist on scaffolding surrounding all the building almost to 10 to 15 meters. So you will find these metal kind of sheets surrounding the construction, to protect the neighborhood. So those things are happening.
I think we need to watch out for this because I don't think a lot of us are aware. Like I was not aware about the pollution mark. I was not aware about the green cloth and the misting and all. I was not aware. I think we need to be a little more aware in this area to recognize.
So there are efforts being taken, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, first I remember, you know, you never had the green cloth, and you know, we would go to see the buildings while it was being constructed to see, you know, that our design, how is it turning out, you know, and now because of the green cloth, you can't do that. So whenever I go to site and when the building has reached the 10th floor, I'm wondering, you know, is this proportion right or not? And it says, I can't remove the green cloth, so you have to wait till the whole building is complete. Then we will remove it and we will see.
Something is messed up over there then.
Exactly. So those things are happening.
Yeah. I remember in Europe they have started making like a life-size poster to stick in front of the building while it is being constructed to show you the outline as to how it's going to look. And I thought it was quite
that is a very cool idea. In fact, it's been there for a while, and it's not to show you what's being constructed, but it is also done so that, you know, it doesn't, your streetscape doesn't look ugly.
Yeah.
So the entire structure, it looks neat. And if you go there, you'll always see that, you know, 20-30% of the buildings are under repair, and they'll have that scaffolding which comes out on the street, and you know, it's covered from outside, so that, you know, the neighborhood doesn't look bad even though there is construction out here.
Correct.
And sadly, like, you know, sometimes I've seen in Mumbai at least, you know, there are buildings which have been made, and then because of some kind of litigation, they just remain there incomplete for years on end. You know, I don't know if you must have noticed, like, there's so many buildings in South Bombay and all, with just the skeleton of the concrete.
Make them art houses.
Yeah. Like somebody has designed it, and then, you know, somebody has filed some kind of litigation, and it doesn't continue, and then it's not even demolished. And then it stays there for 10-15 years, like an eyesore.
Ayyo.
Yeah, so I wish, like, you know, that there was some kind of regulation on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There should be.
There are many buildings, he's right.
Yeah. I think we can convert them into event spaces and do like events in ruin sort of a situation.
They don't have permissions. I think that's the main problem.
Exactly.
Alright. Rupin, you worked with a lot of phenomenal directors as well. You worked with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, you worked with Rajan DK. You worked on the sets of Dear Zindagi. You're working on Dawn 3 right now. Who's starring in Dawn 3? Do you have liberty to say that?
Yeah, of course, it's Ranveer Singh.
Oh, great.
It's all
lovely.
over the news.
Is Ranveer Singh a very eccentric character to work with also? Because I know he's a client and you've designed for him as well.
Yeah.
Is he also an eccentric character in real life, like he's in promotions?
Not at all. He's very specific with his requirements. In fact, he is completely opposite of what you see him
really
on shows and promotions, and him running around at different places. He's completely different. He's very, very specific, and he's a very good client to have, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Because of the clarity. Yeah, we need people with clarity today.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have not assumed this at all. But that's great. That's great. So tell me a little bit about your process when you work with set designing. I remember you were saying that it's a little different when you work with people who are a little old school, like Mr. Bhansali, and the newer generation. Yeah. What are some challenges that you face, or rather some differences that you notice now?
Well, I can go on for hours on this.
We only have 30 minutes.
Yeah. So the process is it's a design process, to be honest, because we are creating spaces. It all starts just the way it starts, you know, brainstorming, putting it on paper, bringing 3Ds alive. That's now. But earlier in the days, when you work with old school people like R. Balki or A.R. Murugadoss or Bhansali sir, SLV sir. So what we do is they really have an understanding of space, and they give that creative liberty for a professional to sort of execute whatever they want.
All right.
And which leaves us with a very good approach to design, for that matter. So we sketch, we ideate things, and then once we put that out onto sets, you know, on a floor, like a stage, shooting stage. When we start bringing the space alive, we see that this is working, this may not work, or certain, like most of the times, cinematically something is very different than what it looks. So right now you have these 3 cameras, but the frame is only that much.
Correct.
So they've asked us to sit closer to each other.
Correct.
So the frame has to be tightened because of the aesthetic of the frame. So we are working for the frame. Same for the films, the work is only for the frame. So until unless it's a film, I mean, there are many. I mean, there are ad films, there are TVCs, there are event shoots, but when you're working for a film, there is a narrative which is going on, right? So you sort of cater to the characters. You build depending upon the character. Now, in Dear Zindagi, if we were looking at Alia, who was Kyra, a certain way. Dr. Jug, who was SRK, his den was a therapist. So the den was a therapist's lab. So now, how do you create that, and what kind of cohesiveness it brings to the space when you introduce a few elements of design here and there.
I remember that scene where she's asked to pick a comfortable chair.
Yeah. So then the set of chairs which are given there, which sort of resonates with the ability of a person that comes in. So what kind of chairs were to be sourced? So I went out sourcing chairs from, and I like to make my own things instead of really going out into markets and doing things. So we look at referencing, we reference it out, we sketch it out, and then we make everything. So we translate that even in interiors, we make everything from scratch instead of really going out to brands and picking things up. It's a very DIY approach. That's my way of living and being in designing. So yeah, that's something that we get into. In terms of the design process, it's still the same. You bring up the space, set it for the camera, and translate it into a cinematic experience for a viewer. That's how it is.
All right. Tell me about one of your exciting projects which you had fun working on.
I legit have fun working on everything I do because I'm very
I'm
blessed
very happy with that answer.
everything that is different every single day.
Yeah.
Everything actually, to be honest. In fact, yesterday I was creating something for Dawn. Of course, I can't disclose that, which was prosthetic in an approach.
All right.
So I had to create that, and there was a lot of R&D. I had to study the kind of materials that I could use. So I imported a material called dragon skin silicone and created something out of it, which I'll show you later. But yeah, it turned out really well. No, but it was an animal. That's all I can say. But yeah, it turned out. And as a design student, it's very, very interesting to sort of do everything and just not like walls and buildings and stuff, but everything. You get an opportunity to really
make a huge landscape.
Everything. So, you could ask me to create a bottle which I would break on your head, but you will not get hurt. So stuff like that. So what is it that I make it out of? It could be sugar syrup, stuff like that. So the understanding the plethora of the materials which is open in front of us is something that really excites me. And so that's the advantage that I play by.
I'm sure the R&D also must be really exciting, and
it's amazing, but I hate the meetings. That's the only thing. There are a lot of meetings, a lot of to and fro. There's a little bit of like 5% of the excitement that I get when I sit and work on something with my hands, and that satisfaction and excitement. I think that's what every designer is really looking out for.
Yeah. Right. My next question is also for you. Tell me some wild requests that a client may have made, whether it was on set or whether it was on an interior project or a design project, which made you really question the intention, and did you execute it or you didn't execute it?
I would love to execute anything that is random, to be honest, because the whole point of a cinematic liberty, as we call it in films, is to do something that doesn't happen. So you are actually creating dreams. So if you get an opportunity to sort of hang somebody upside down and paint a wall, which we have done for Asian Paints, we have done it. And we'll be like, कोई ऐसे क्यों करेगा? मतलब उल्टा लटक के paint क्यों करेगा? But it was like that, and it was one of those things, and very, very random things come up at times. But like I said, it's fun and exciting to see what it turns out. Most of the times when, as a design team, when we put together things, they are far better when executed.
Correct.
Than a client telling us, okay, you do this and I want this. And it translates to something which eventually they don't like. They're like, oh, this is not working out, you should have suggested. I said, we are being a screwdriver here, that's it.
But you've designed a lot of houses for celebrities. You've done it for Sonakshi Sinha, you've done it for Ranveer Singh, Alia Bhatt, Ranbir Kapoor. Don't take any names, but have any of these or any of the film stars asked you for something really wild or really eccentric?
Yeah, see,
which is not common
the lucky
for
part
a
here
designer
is
to hear.
the lucky part for me here is they don't have time.
Oh,
So they legit visit once or twice.
all right.
You know, and each time they visit, it is in such a state that I make sure that there's a lot of dust. They'll be like, oh shit, we can't be here, and they get out. No, I'm just kidding. So, but yeah, so in that state, it is very difficult for them to sort of visualize and see what's coming out.
Yeah.
But I have been, by grace, very blessed to have fantastic clients. Mostly all of them have visited once or twice.
All right. That
in-
gives you
in
a lot
span
of liberty.
Yeah, totally.
to-
So, and also the approach of sort of, as a designer, when you present a space, and that's how I do it for my sets, and maybe I've carried that forward from sets to live spaces, which is interiors. I like to set it up to the bloody point, like put a bottle, put a glass, and just present it. Because then the experience of a viewer who enters has to be like, they have to be floored by it.
Yeah. So do you
That's
also
when-
get involved in the styling part of the project once you're done with designing?
I like to do everything. There is I don't get into hiring somebody to style the space, because you do it holistically, do everything now for one
sounds
project.
good.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's when a designing assignment sort of gives you a kick.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. I mean, different for everyone, but right from bare shell, where these guys, they hand it over to us at times, and we take it forward from them,
Yeah.
and whatever you translate it to.
Yeah.
To styling it to the T, and a person entering, the family entering, and they'll, most of like 6 of my clients have cried
Wow.
when they've entered the spaces, and they've
That
had
must
tears.
be such a wholesome experience to see.
Yeah, it is. It is truly something.
Yeah.
It's truly something, because firstly they trusted you,
Yeah.
and now this happens,
Yeah.
which is beautiful, because, and that's also
Rajan,
because
have any of your clients cried?
not crying the other way.
I understand what he's saying.
All right. I have another question for you guys. Tell me, what is another means that you draw inspiration from, like art, music, anything else at all in your life, which is not related to architecture, which is a completely different field, but you draw a lot of inspiration from that. Do you have something like that?
I think inspiration wise, most of the time since I'm an architect and I'm a designer, I get inspiration from a lot of buildings which I see when I travel. And traveling in India, traveling abroad, every time I do that, I look at and I wonder, how certain monuments and how certain structures have been built. How have they been built technically, and what was the thought process, and how the time was, going back in time, understanding that moment. Like in India, you have these fabulous monuments, which are like 1500 years old, 1000 years old, and you wonder, how they were made during those times. And abroad also you see very modern buildings. So I think for me it's more of that. I mean, anything else I wouldn't be able to kind of pinpoint on, but most of the time it's traveling and seeing the spaces, the landscape, the cityscapes which inspire me.
Has there been a particular structure that's stuck with you till date, which got you into really strong emotions and has always been somewhere in the back of your head?
Well, many, but I think the first or I mean, in the beginning it was when I joined architecture, and we had gone for a study tour to Ahmedabad. And for the first time I saw Le Corbusier's Mill Association building. And as an architect, you just study about spaces, but when you see something where somebody has actually been able to translate that thought into reality, it's amazing experience. Like I am Ahmedabad, if you see Louis Kahn's structure, if you have seen it's made entirely in brick, and it's amazing when you go into that space to understand how the light filters inside, what you feel. So emotionally feeling the architecture for the first time, I think happened when I went to Ahmedabad to see that kind of work. And I think that kind of stuck on, and it made me realize that architecture is so much about feeling the space. So when you design, you have to feel that space, and if you can create that feeling for anybody, it could be an interior space, it could be a bungalow, it could be a building, but for the people who are going to stay there, the residents, if you can create that feeling, I think you've done your job.
Yeah, that's very beautifully put. It's always nice to hear the perspective of an architect when he's referring to a building, because I think we are just looking at the structure, but these emotions and expressions that come out are sometimes unknown to us. I have a very similar question for you, Rupin. Are there any other professions, or are there any other sets or moods that you take inspiration from? I'm sure movies are one of them, but
Yeah, so basically for me, inspiration is from every person I meet, to be honest. There are tons of people I get inspired from, many of them, because it could be right from a person, the way he sits, that is one inspiring point for me, and I would take it forward mentally. I'll make a note of it, stuff like that. To like I was 2 months back, I was in Sibiu near Romania, and I saw this kid paint something on the floor, and it was a perspective drawing. So I spent about 3 hours just running around it to see what that was.
Wow.
Now stuff like that, like there is talent which is unimaginable.
Yeah.
In the world, and when I meet these kind of people, it's really something. So for me, inspiration is in pockets, like from one person this, from the other person that, because everyone's doing something which is really outstanding, to be honest, at some or the other level.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really something. Like it could be there was this old man that I was shooting for a film called Yudra for Excel, and this fellow was 106.
Oh wow.
But he had this real swag of the way he sat, and he was smoking on set, and we were like, sir, you cannot smoke on set. So he's like, bhag jao yahan se. So the way he sat and he smoked, and his texture, his skin, it was really inspiring to look at it. Yeah. So if you have to create something like that, of 100, you don't get to see 106s every day.
106, wow.
So when you see him, and of course by the time film released, he passed. But like those kind of nuances in everyday life, there are so many times. There's this recently I met a rickshaw driver, and he was too funny. Just the way he was too funny, and the way he spoke, it was just, I'm having a conversation on the phone, but he is talking, So now that you just look at him, he's like, what a character. So for me, that character is like settled in many places, which you absorb, and then that translates to something that you want to use one day.
Yeah.
As anything. For a film or for my spaces, it could be also somebody painting a certain thing, that could translate into spaces later on. But yeah, so it's sort of an amalgamation of a lot of things for me.
All right, that's amazing. Guys, we are approaching the end of our podcast here, but I have the last few rapid fire questions for you guys, which I just want you to quickly tell me whatever comes to your head the moment you hear it. Okay, detail you obsess over most, Rajan?
I think I don't obsess over details. I actually obsess over the ideology and the thought process.
All right, Rupin?
Textures.
Yeah. Minimalism or maximalism?
I'm very much a minimalist.
I think I know your answer.
Subjective. When a set requires minimalism, I have to give it. There's no other
But what
way.
do you prefer personally?
I'm an Indian by heart, so we are sort of brought up in a way, and also Gujarati, so maximalist nature is imbibed.
Yeah. What's a go-to material for you?
I think concrete.
Yeah.
Is
What about you?
Soil.
You have so many.
Soil.
Soil. Wow, very interesting. A space, real or fictional, that you still feel strongly about?
I've designed a very interesting house, which I've made, and I'm sorry, it's not a short answer, but
Go for it.
it's a house where all my thoughts about light, shadow, and creating an experience I could do, and it's about with this large land facing a valley, and how I created an experience where, to cut it short, like, we created a space where the entire landscape kind of rose towards the house, and when you enter the property, you actually can't see anything except just a long road.
Yeah.
And then that road travels around the landscape, inside the landscape, like a kind of a tunnel. And from there, you enter the house, and when you enter the house, you are then exposed to like a fantastic valley view. So the entire experience of creating, the entrance to what somebody experiences at the end is
this Infinity
something.
house we're talking about?
No, this is another house which we have just completed. But
Alright.
the whole experience which we wanted to create about the surprise element and light and shadow, and just making a very beautiful design was, I think we achieved it out here, which is not very easy when you're doing a lot of when you're doing buildings which have a lot of parameters which restrict you in so many ways, as opposed to making a standalone house where the parameters are much more widened, and you can create something, you can create an experience which touches the client. So it's not just a structure which has got bedrooms and bathrooms and a living room, but it is a space which makes you feel something. So we wanted to create that feeling, and we could achieve it out here. And
That's amazing. I'm
great
very
experience.
excited to see this project.
Yes.
I'm going to keep an eye out for this. Rupin, same question for you.
This place called The Habitats in Alula, which is in Saudi.
All right.
You should check it out. It is really something.
All right.
It just blows your mind. It feels like every part of design has been taken care of by the nature and humans in tandem.
Oh, wow.
So it is truly something.
I think we need more spaces like that. I think.
Yeah.
we
I
need
think
to
they have a
bring
couple
in-
around there only.
Right.
There are a couple of properties that are just too stunning.
All right. Guys, one last question. We're a very humid city, all right. I know we all use a lot of wooden floorings, but how do you feel about that? Do you think that's a good solution for the kind of city and the environment it is that we're living in?
I think wood is a good solution because it's, especially if you're using natural wood, that's what I mean. One is that you are getting a chance to use something natural on a flooring material, which itself is like, it beats any kind of ceramic tile or any kind of other finish, as opposed to, using wood in its natural form. And then of course it gives you that cooling effect, it gives you that soft effect, and of course it depends upon which part of the house you want to use it. But it can really change your sensory experience.
All right.
Wood can do that.
What about you, Rupin?
I think I belong to the Stone Age. I don't
You
like-
love using soil so well, I can imagine.
Yeah, I am averse to using wood anywhere because it's especially in our city. And of course, yes, if you use the natural wood, it doesn't go wrong.
Correct.
But there's a certain feel that I personally like, and I feel that I like to carry forward in my projects and everything. So that's stone. I sort of resonate more towards the stone usage in almost all my projects.
All right. That, gentlemen, brings us to the end of our podcast today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was lovely having both of you. I have learned
Thank you for
so much
having
from
us.
both of you
Thank you.
today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.